7 minutes. On a DD.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Attorney-General. Attorney, I imagine you've been following the New South Wales ICAC inquiry into ex-Premier Gladys Berejiklian's secret relationship with a disgraced former MP and how that relationship may have affected the way she dealt with projects he was pursuing. The ICAC Act imposes a duty on ministers to report to the Commission any matter the minister suspects on reasonable grounds concerns or may concern corrupt conduct, and it is this obligation that has been the focus of questions directed at Ms Berejiklian. Attorney, in Tasmania, there is no similar legal requirements for ministers to report suspected corrupt conduct. In Tasmania, ministers can carelessly go about their business and legally, if not morally, keep their suspicions to themselves. Attorney, do you agree that the public would expect that ministers should be legally required to report suspected corrupt conduct? And will you bring legislation into this House to rectify this omission to ensure that ministers and other senior public servants are required to report suspected corrupt conduct to the Tasmanian Integrity Commission?
That's a good question.
Honourable Attorney-General.
Here.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I thank the member for Clark for her question. However, I note that there is a theme emerging from the member that is somewhat concerning and blatantly wrong in my view. Mr Speaker, is she insinuating that there are current or past members that she suspects are not abiding by the obligations under the Integrity Commission Act 2009 and various codes of conduct that are in place to cover off on the expected behaviours of both ministers and members of Parliament? And if this is the case, this is concerning as it appears that she herself may not be following through on reporting such behaviour to the Integrity Commission as the appropriate and responsible authority to investigate such misconduct, which is effectively what she claims to be the issue. Yes. Mr Speaker, the Integrity Commission Act clearly outlines the role of the Commission to investigate any claim or suspicion of misconduct, and misconduct is defined under the Act as being a conduct or an attempt to engage in conduct of or by a public officer that is or involves 1. A breach of a code of conduct applicable to the public officer, or 2, the performance of the public officer's functions or the exercise of the public officer's powers in a way that is dishonest or improper, or 3, a misuse of information or material acquired in or in connection with the performance of the public officer's functions or exercise of the public officer's powers, or 4, a misuse of public resources in connection with the performance of the public officer's functions or the exercise of the public officer's powers, or B, conduct or an attempt to engage in conduct of or by any public officer that adversely affects or could adversely affect directly or indirectly the honest and proper performance of functions or exercise of powers of another public officer, but does not include conduct or an attempt to engage in conduct by a public officer in connection with a proceeding in Parliament. Mr Speaker, as all members here would agree, it is a fundamental tenet of being an elected representative of the Tasmanian Parliament to abide by all requirements and statutory obligations under Tasmanian law. If there is any concern for misconduct in public office or for a crime to have been committed, they should be referred immediately to the police and or the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. Mr Speaker, I note that the Criminal Code, which deals with all our indictable offences, our complex serious crimes, already deals with a number of sections, including conspiracy and attempting to interfere with an executive officer at section 69 and 297, as well as section 83, which deals with corruption of public officers, section 84, extortion by public officers, and the sections relating to fraud. If Ms Johnston is not doing this, or any member for that matter, in accordance with their role as a member of the Tasmanian Parliament, I would be very concerned indeed. And further, as I've repeatedly answered in recent months, any reform to the abuse of public officers, which are serious and complex criminal offences, requires significant investigation and consideration. Considering any amendment to the Criminal Code should be considered in a measured, sensible and balanced way, allowing for appropriate consultation and opportunity for appropriate scrutiny. Now, I can see the smirk on Ms Johnston's face, and I'm quite concerned there is a smirk because it means she's got a pre-prepared Facebook file again, ready to go. And this is a really serious issue, Mr. Speaker, and I'm going to stress here, I'm outlining deliberately a very detailed and specific answer to your specific question, which did deal with a number of matters. So,
Well, just for the record, Ms Johnston was not smirking.
I hope it's not politicised. I hope this is not politicised by another one of these Facebook tiles from the independent member for Clark, because this is a serious issue. Now, Mr Speaker, this is why our government is currently undertaking a comprehensive, sensible and measured approach to consider necessary further reforms as a result of the Cox Review recommendations. My department's currently working with the Integrity Commission on this to consider areas for reform to the Integrity Commission Act if necessary, and this work will be informed by the recent, as I said, independent statutory review undertaken by the Honourable William Cox, together with any other potential issues that have subsequently been identified. Mr Speaker, in closing, our government remains committed to continuing to progress this important work. Ministers abide by codes of conduct. Members of this Parliament have a code of conduct to abide by. I have painstakingly read out the sections in the Integrity Commission Act that detail what our obligations are and what our specific tenets and obligations are under the law, specifically also in relation to the Criminal Code Act. And there's that smirk again.
Mr Speaker.
Mr Speaker.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Woeful behaviour.